Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. The alarm in Section 7 of the Orbital Defense Platform, Sentinel, had been blaring for precisely 2 minutes and 14 seconds when Dr. Nadia Volkov burst into the monitoring station, her dark hair flying behind her like a comet's tail. "What do we have?" she demanded, sliding into her chair with practiced ease. The motion sensors had picked up something massive approaching Earth's solar system, something that wasn't registering on any of their catalogs. "Unknown object, Doctor," replied Technician Jensen, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "It's maintaining a steady course toward Earth, no deviation for the past 6 hours." Nadia's brow furrowed as she studied the readings. 20 years as chief astrophysicist for the Global Space Alliance hadn't prepared her for anything like this. The object's speed was impossible by current human standards, and its heat signature suggested propulsion technology beyond their understanding. "Send these readings to Admiral Pierce immediately," she ordered, her Russian accent thickening with stress, "and patch me through to Houston Control." Half a world away, Admiral Thomas Pierce was already being awakened by his aide. At 62, the veteran military commander had witnessed humanity's expansion into the solar system, supervised the construction of the Mars colonies, and negotiated 3 separate resource treaties with competing Earth governments. But nothing in his extensive career had prepared him for the call that dragged him from sleep at 300 hours. "Sir," Lieutenant Commander Emilio Reyes said, standing ramrod straight in the Admiral's quarters, "Sentinel Station reports an unknown object approaching Earth at high velocity. Dr. Volkov has classified it as a first contact scenario." Pierce was instantly alert, sleep forgotten. First contact wasn't just a term from science fiction holovids, it was a carefully designated protocol developed for humanity's eventual encounter with extraterrestrial intelligence. "How certain is she?" Pierce asked, already reaching for his uniform. "The object changed course 3 times to avoid collision with space debris," Reyes replied. "It's demonstrating intentional navigation." Within 30 minutes, Admiral Pierce and Lieutenant Commander Reyes were in the heart of the North American Defense Command, surrounded by the world's foremost experts on extraterrestrial contingencies. "The object slowed as it passed Jupiter," Dr. Volkov explained via holographic projection from the space station. Her image flickered slightly, a reminder of the millions of miles separating them. "It's now orbiting Europa. Based on its current behavior, I believe it's gathering information." "How large is this thing?" asked Director Francine Dupont of the International Space Agency, her French accent clipping her words. "Current estimates put it at approximately 1.7 kilometers in length," Nadia replied, causing a murmur to ripple through the assembled officials. "Its mass is difficult to calculate, but it's clearly designed for deep space travel." "A ship," Pierce said, speaking the word everyone was thinking. "Yes," Nadia confirmed. "And based on its trajectory analysis, it'll reach Earth orbit in approximately 72 hours. The conference room erupted in controlled chaos as officials began organizing Earth's response. Pierce turned to Lieutenant Commander Reyes, whose dark eyes remained fixed on the projection of the mysterious object. "Emilio, what are you thinking?" Pierce asked his most trusted officer. "I'm thinking this is exactly what we've been preparing for, sir," Reyes replied. "But I'm also thinking all our preparations might be woefully inadequate." Pierce nodded grimly. Humanity had long speculated about first contact with alien intelligence, some imagined benevolent visitors bearing gifts of advanced technology and cosmic wisdom. Others feared conquerors who would view Earth as just another resource to exploit. The truth, Pierce suspected, would defy all expectations. "Get me a secure line to the United Earth Council," Pierce ordered, "and tell orbital defense platforms Artemis and Apollo to move to high alert status." As Reyes carried out his orders, Dr. Volkov continued her analysis on the space station. The object, now officially designated as Alpha, had begun emitting unusual energy signatures. Her instruments struggled to categorize the readings. "Dr. Volkov, these energy patterns," her assistant Raj Patel remarked, pointing to fluctuations on the display. "They're organized almost like a language," Nadia finished, her pulse quickening. She had dedicated her life to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, developing algorithms to distinguish between natural cosmic phenomena and potential artificial signals. Now those algorithms were lighting up her screens like a Christmas tree. It's broadcasting, she whispered, half in awe, half in terror. 12 hours later, Admiral Pierce stood before the hastily assembled United Earth Council. Representatives from all 7 continental alliances gathered in New Geneva, their faces reflecting varying degrees of fear, hope, and disbelief. "We've translated portions of the broadcast," Pierce announced. "Our linguists believe it's a notification of arrival, not an immediate threat. The vessel, which we're designating Warship Alpha based on its apparent military configuration, will enter Earth orbit in less than 60 hours. "And what are our options?" asked Counselor Ibrahim from the African Alliance, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. "Militarily, we're outmatched," Pierce admitted. "This vessel possesses technology centuries beyond our own. Any aggressive action would likely be futile and potentially provocative." "Then we welcome them," suggested Counselor Takahashi of the Pacific Rim Alliance. "We show them humanity at its best, peaceful, curious, ready to join a larger community." "Or we show them humanity prepared to defend itself," countered European Alliance Representative Counselor Novik. "Not aggressive, but not naive either." The debate raged for hours while, unbeknownst to the Council, Lieutenant Commander Reyes was coordinating the most ambitious intelligence operation in human history. Every telescope, satellite, and sensor array on and around Earth was directed toward Warship Alpha as it methodically worked its way through our solar system. "It's scanning everything," Dr. Volkov reported to Reyes during a secure transmission. "Mars colonies, the moon installations, our orbital platforms, it's creating a detailed map of human civilization." "Reconnaissance before invasion?" Reyes asked grimly. "Possibly," Nadia conceded, "but there's something else. It's taking special interest in our communications networks. It's learning about us." At the 48-hour mark, Warship Alpha accelerated suddenly, bypassing Mars and heading directly for Earth. Emergency alerts blared across every continent as the massive vessel took up position in high Earth orbit, its dark silhouette briefly eclipsing the sun over the Pacific Ocean. Then silence, the vessel hovered motionless and seemingly dormant. "What are they waiting for?" Pierce muttered, standing in NORAD's command center as massive screens displayed real-time images of the alien ship. His answer came moments later when every communications device on Earth, from military command systems to civilian smartphones, simultaneously received the same message, translated into all major human languages. "Attention Earth leadership. We have observed your civilization and determined it requires intervention. Prepare to receive OUR ambassador. Coordinates for reception to follow. Acknowledgement required." The coordinates arrived seconds later, a remote location in the Sahara Desert. "Sir, what do we do?" Reyes asked, turning to Pierce. The Admiral looked around the command center at the faces of humanity's defenders, then at the image of the imposing warship that held Earth's fate in balance. "We acknowledge," he said finally, "and we prepare to meet our visitors." As the Earth's leaders mobilized for humanity's first face-to-face encounter with aliens, Dr. Nadia Volkov made a disturbing discovery in the message's embedded metadata. "Admiral," she said urgently over the secure channel, "the message wasn't just a communication. It contained a program that's infiltrating our global networks. They're inside our systems already." The first battle for Earth had already begun, and humanity didn't even know it was fighting. The Sahara Desert had never felt so small. General Yuki Himura stood at the edge of the hastily established diplomatic zone, sweat beading on her forehead despite the cooling system in her formal military uniform. Behind her, a collection of Earth's most powerful leaders and brightest minds had gathered in a series of climate-controlled tents, nervously awaiting the arrival of the alien ambassador. "Any update from our surveillance?" she asked Colonel Deo Jakand, her second-in-command. The Nigerian officer had been monitoring drone footage of Warship Alpha since it had settled into Earth's orbit. "Nothing yet, General," Jakand replied, his expression carefully neutral. "But our systems are still compromised. We're essentially flying blind." Himura nodded grimly. Within hours of receiving the alien message, Earth's most sophisticated cybersecurity experts had confirmed Dr. Volkov's assessment. Something had infiltrated virtually every connected system on the planet. It wasn't destroying or disrupting, merely watching, learning. "We've got movement," called out Communications Officer Patel. "Something's deploying from the main vessel." All eyes turned to the massive display screens. A smaller craft had separated from Warship Alpha and was descending rapidly through Earth's atmosphere, generating none of the heat signatures that human vessels would produce during re-entry. "They've bypassed our atmospheric defense grid completely," Himura noted. "That technology alone." She didn't need to finish the thought. Everyone present understood the implications. If these visitors decided to be hostile, humanity had precious few cards to play. Strategic specialist Olivia Winters approached, tablet in hand. At 34, she was the youngest person ever to head the Global Strategic Response Unit, known for her brilliant analysis of complex geopolitical situations. This, however, was beyond even her extensive training. "General, I've compiled our options based on 17 potential first contact scenarios," she said quietly. "But without knowing their intentions, we're essentially guessing." "What's your instinct telling you?" Himura asked. Winters hesitated. "Their actions so far, the surveillance, the system infiltration, the military posturing, suggest they don't see us as equals. This isn't a diplomatic exchange, it's something else." The small alien craft landed with surprising gentleness half a kilometer from the diplomatic zone, kicking up minimal sand despite its size. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then, a seam appeared in its metallic surface and a ramp extended. The figure that emerged moved with unsettling grace, clearly bipedal, but with proportions just different enough from human to trigger an instinctive discomfort in those watching. It wore what appeared to be a form-fitting suit of indeterminate material that shifted colors slightly with each movement. "I'm going out there," announced the Secretary-General of the United Nations, stepping forward. "As we agreed." General Himura nodded reluctantly. The diplomatic protocol for this encounter had been hastily established: minimal delegation, unarmed, open-handed approach. Everything humanity knew about peaceful first contact had been distilled into a 50-page document created in less than 2 days. "We'll be monitoring everything," she assured the Secretary-General. "Colonel Jackand and I will be 20 meters behind you at all times." The alien visitor waited patiently as the small human delegation approached across the desert sand. As they drew closer, more details became apparent. The being stood nearly 7 feet tall, with a head that seemed slightly too large for its frame. What might have been eyes were hidden behind a reflective facial shield. "Greetings," the Secretary-General began when they were approximately 10 feet apart. "On behalf of humanity and Earth, we welcome you to our world and—" "I am Krell," the alien interrupted, its voice unnervingly perfect English with no apparent speech apparatus visible. "I serve as Evaluation Officer for the Galactic Preservation Initiative. Your species has been monitored for the past 87 of your years. I am here to deliver the initiative's findings and subsequent directives." The Secretary-General faltered momentarily. "We appreciate your interest in our civilization. We have many questions about your initiative and—" "Your questions are irrelevant," Krell stated flatly. "The initiative's assessment is complete. Humanity has been categorized as a Level 4 extinction threat to regional stellar ecosystems." A cold silence fell over the delegation. Himura felt her blood freeze despite the desert heat. "I don't understand," the Secretary-General said carefully. "We've barely begun to explore beyond our own solar system." The alien's head tilted slightly. "Your technological development curve exceeds safety parameters. Historical analysis of your species indicates a 78.3% probability that without intervention, you will develop unrestricted self-replicating technologies within 60 years. The probability of subsequent resource consumption conflicts stands at 91.7%. Olivia Winters stepped forward, ignoring protocol. "You're judging us on actions we haven't even taken yet." "Prediction models are consistently reliable across 17,000 previously evaluated species," Krell responded. "The initiative exists precisely because developing civilizations cannot typically self-regulate effectively during crucial technological transition periods." Colonel Jackand's hand had drifted toward his sidearm, a futile gesture, but Himura understood the impulse. "What exactly does intervention mean?" he asked. The alien turned its reflective face shield toward him. "The initiative offers 3 options. First, acceptance of developmental restrictions and permanent oversight. Second, voluntary population reduction and technological regression. Third, immediate species neutralization." The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Himura had participated in high-stakes negotiations throughout her career, but never one where humanity's continued existence was the bargaining chip. "This is absurd," the Secretary General stammered. "You can't simply arrive and threaten an entire species with extinction because of what your models predict." "Your perspective is noted but irrelevant," Krell replied. "The initiative has preserved galactic biodiversity for over 4 million years through consistent application of these protocols. You have 48 hours to select an option and begin implementation procedures." With that, the alien turned and began walking back toward its craft. "Wait," called Olivia Winters. "At least tell us more about these options. What exactly would oversight entail? What level of reduction are you talking about?" Krell paused. "Documentation will be transmitted to your primary governmental networks. The initiative is not unreasonable. We exist to preserve, not destroy. But make no mistake, indecision or resistance will default to the third option." The alien craft departed as quietly as it had arrived, leaving the human delegation standing in shocked silence on the desert sand. Back at the command center, chaos erupted as leaders from around the world demanded answers, strategies, anything that might offer hope. General Himura found herself in the unenviable position of military authority during what might be humanity's final hours. "We need to see those documents," she ordered, addressing the assembled technicians. "Find out exactly what these options mean." Within the hour, the alien transmission arrived, thousands of pages of detailed specifications for each option. Olivia Winters led a team of analysts working frantically to understand the implications. "Option 1 means essentially becoming their vassals," she reported grimly to the emergency session of the United Earth Council. "They would install observation nodes in every major population center, restrict our technological development in key areas, especially AI, nanotechnology, and faster-than-light research, and require regular compliance inspections." "And the second option?" asked Councillor Larson of the Nordic Alliance. Winters's face darkened. "Population reduction to pre-industrial levels, approximately 1 billion humans globally, with enforced technological regression to early 21st century capabilities. We would be permitted to maintain certain medical advances, but nothing that could potentially lead to self-replicating technologies." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Either option represented the end of human civilization as they knew it. "What about military options?" General Himura asked, knowing the answer before the words left her mouth. Colonel Jackand shook his head. "Based on their demonstrated technological superiority, we estimate any conventional military response would be futile. Nuclear options might damage their vessel, but they clearly have the capability to neutralize our launch systems before deployment." "They've given us an impossible choice," the Secretary General said quietly. "Surrender our future or surrender our existence." "Perhaps not," Olivia Winters interjected, her eyes fixed on her tablet. "I've been analyzing these documents and there might be something here. The Galactic Preservation Initiative seems to operate on strict protocols, almost like a bureaucracy. They're following procedures that were established millennia ago." "How does that help us?" Himura asked. "Bureaucracies have loopholes," Winters replied, a spark of determination in her eyes. "And I think I've found one. According to page 4372 of their transmission, there's a provision for species to appeal their threat classification if they can demonstrate exceptional mitigating factors." Hope flickered across the faces in the room, but Councillor Ibrahim remained skeptical. What mitigating factors could possibly counterbalance their prediction models? "I don't know yet," Winters admitted, "but it gives us a starting point, a way to keep talking instead of simply accepting their ultimatum. And there's something else. These documents mention other sentient species in our galactic sector. Some of them might have faced similar situations." General Himura straightened her uniform. "Then we need two things immediately. First, a formal request for appeal to buy us time. Second, a team capable of gathering more intelligence about this initiative and its weaknesses." "The appeal I can draft," the Secretary General offered. "But how do we gather intelligence against an adversary this advanced?" Colonel Jackand stepped forward. "I know someone who specializes in the impossible, former Special Operations Operative Marcus Donovan. If anyone can infiltrate an alien warship, it's him. And we'll need a xenobiologist," Winters added. "Someone who can make sense of whatever they find. Dr. Samira Hassan at the Exobiology Institute has been theorizing about potential alien biology for decades." General Himura nodded decisively. Make it happen. Winters, you keep digging through those documents, find us anything we can use. The rest of you prepare your nations. Whether we succeed or fail, humanity must stand together. As the emergency session disbanded, Olivia Winters remained, poring over the alien documentation. Something about the initiative's methodology nagged at her, a rigidity that suggested vulnerability. If humanity could find the right pressure point. Her tablet pinged with an incoming message. It was from Dr. Nadia Volkov on the space station. Found something in the ship's emissions pattern. It's communicating with something else, something not on the ship. We're not dealing with just one alien species here. Call me immediately. Winters felt a chill run down her spine. The complexity of their situation had just increased exponentially. But with complexity came opportunity and perhaps humanity's last hope for survival. Outside, Warship Alpha loomed in the night sky, visible to the naked eye, a new star heralding either humanity's end or its transformation. The clock was ticking. Marcus Donovan hadn't worn a uniform in 5 years. After 15 years in Special Forces, culminating in the legendary Bolivia extraction mission, he'd walked away to live a quiet life in the mountains of Colorado. His cabin had no internet connection, no cell service, and most importantly, no reminders of the life he'd left behind. So when a military helicopter landed in his clearing at dawn, Marcus knew it wasn't bringing good news. "The world's ending and you need me to save it," he said flatly to Colonel Jackand, who stood on his porch looking distinctly uncomfortable in the mountain air. "Is that about right?" Jackand's expression didn't change, something like that. 4 hours later, Marcus found himself in a subterranean facility he wasn't supposed to know existed, staring at images of an alien warship. "We need you to get inside," General Himura explained, her voice steady despite the audacity of the request. "We need intelligence, anything that might give us leverage in negotiations." "It's a suicide mission," Marcus observed, studying the schematics they'd compiled. "You realize that?" "I wouldn't ask if Earth had any other options," Himura replied. Marcus ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. At 43, he was past his prime for this kind of operation. But those same years had given him experience no one else could match. "I'll need a team," he said finally. "You'll have Dr. Samira Hassan," Himura replied, sliding a tablet toward him with a personnel file. "Leading xenobiologist. She's been studying potential alien biology her entire career. If there's anything biological to exploit on that ship, she'll find it." Marcus skimmed the file. Dr. Hassan was clearly brilliant, degrees from Cambridge and Tokyo Tech, groundbreaking papers on theoretical alien physiology. She was also a civilian with no field experience. "With all due respect, General, I need soldiers, not scientists." "What you need is someone who understands what you're looking at once you're inside," countered a new voice. Marcus turned to see a woman in her late 30s standing in the doorway. Her hijab was deep blue, matching the intensity of her eyes. "Unless you can distinguish between their life support systems and their weapons matrix on your own." Dr. Samira Hassan strode into the room with the confidence of someone who had earned her place at any table she chose to sit at. "I've spent 20 years preparing for this moment, Mr. Donovan. No one on Earth is more qualified to interpret alien technology." Marcus held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded slightly. "Fine, but I'm still going to need tactical support." "You'll have it," Himura assured him. "But the infiltration team needs to be small. We're mounting this operation without the knowledge of Warship Alpha. The fewer people involved, the better our chances of success." "And how exactly are we supposed to get onto an advanced alien warship undetected?" Marcus asked. The answer came from Olivia Winters, who entered carrying a stack of printouts. "We've analyzed their patrol patterns. The ship deploys smaller craft every 6 hours to collect atmospheric samples and scan our defense systems. They follow a predictable route, hovering approximately 50 meters above key military installations before returning to the main vessel." "You want us to hijack one of their scout ships," Marcus surmised, already calculating the odds. They weren't good. "We've identified a collection point near the former NORAD facility where we believe we can intercept one," Winters continued. "Based on observed behavior, the scout vessels appear to operate semi-autonomously. If we can neutralize its communication systems quickly enough, the main ship might not register the deviation immediately." Marcus turned to Dr. Hassan. "Can you fly an alien spacecraft?" Theoretically, she replied without hesitation. I've been studying their propulsion signatures. Their technology seems to operate on principles similar to quantum field manipulation, concepts I've been researching for a decade. Theoretically, Marcus repeated dryly, perfect. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Marcus was fitted with experimental body armor designed based on observations of the alien ambassador's protective gear. Dr. Hassan downloaded every scrap of data collected on the alien vessel, committing key elements to memory. Their support team consisted of 4 elite operatives led by Captain Rodrigo Vargas, a man Marcus knew by reputation only, whispered stories of impossible extractions and classified operations that officially never happened. We'll create a diversion to cover your approach, Vargas explained during the final briefing. Once you're inside, we'll maintain position to extract you if possible, but we're on our own, Marcus finished. I understand. Dr. Hassan surprised everyone by producing a small device from her pocket. I've modified this electromagnetic pulse generator based on what we know of their technology. It might, emphasis on might, disrupt their detection systems long enough for us to gain entry. As the team dispersed to make final preparations, Samira found Marcus in the armory, methodically checking his equipment. Why did you agree to this? She asked directly. You were out safe. Marcus continued his inspection without looking up. Same reason you did, I expect. Someone has to. I've dedicated my life to understanding alien life, she countered. This is the culmination of my work. You walked away from yours. Finally, Marcus met her gaze. When I was 22, my unit was in Rwanda during the crisis. I watched people die while politicians debated terminology. I swore I'd never stand by again when I could act. He secured his combat knife in its sheath, even if the action is futile. Samira nodded slowly. Not futile, unlikely perhaps, but not futile. At 200 hours, Operation Trojan Horse launched. The interception point was a rocky outcropping near what had once been one of America's most secure military installations. Now it served as bait for the alien scouts. Marcus and Samira lay motionless under camouflage netting, watching the night sky. Captain Vargas and his team were positioned 3 kilometers west, ready to create their diversion. Incoming, Samira whispered, her enhanced binoculars tracking a faint distortion moving against the stars. Exactly on schedule. The alien scout vessel was smaller than expected, perhaps the size of a delivery van, and moved with eerie silence. As it hovered above the former military installation, Vargas's team detonated electromagnetic charges precisely calibrated to attract the vessel's attention without appearing threatening. Now, Marcus breathed into his comm unit as the scout changed course to investigate the disturbance. As it passed overhead, he fired a specialized grappling hook that adhered to its underside. What followed was 30 seconds of controlled chaos as Marcus and Samira were rapidly winched up to the vessel. Upon reaching it, Marcus deployed Samira's EMP device while simultaneously searching for what intelligence suggested might be an access point. The vessel shuddered as the electromagnetic pulse disrupted its systems. A seam appeared similar to what had been observed when the ambassador emerged, and Marcus forced it wider, creating an opening just large enough for them to squeeze through. We're in, he reported tersely, helping Samira into the craft's dimly lit interior. Commencing radio silence. Inside, the scout vessel was a marvel of alien engineering. Surfaces that appeared solid would suddenly become transparent, displaying information in symbols that flowed like liquid. There was no obvious control panel. The entire environment seemed responsive to the occupant's presence. Fascinating, Samira murmured, already scanning everything with her specialized equipment. The entire vessel appears semi-organic. These surfaces are conducting energy similar to a nervous system. Can you make it fly to the mothership? Marcus asked, keeping his attention divided between her and their surroundings. I believe so, she replied, approaching what seemed to be the central area. She placed her hands on a pulsing surface, closing her eyes in concentration. The interface is partially telepathic. I can feel its systems. Marcus kept his doubts to himself as the vessel suddenly hummed with renewed energy. The temporary disruption from the EMP was wearing off, but instead of returning to its original mission, the scout craft changed direction, accelerating toward Warship Alpha. How did you do that? He asked, genuinely impressed. I've been theorizing about alien cognition interfaces for years, Samira explained, her face intense with concentration. They're not so different from experimental systems we've been developing, just more advanced. The principles are similar. As they approached the massive warship, Marcus braced for detection, for defensive systems to tear their small craft apart. Instead, access panels on the warship's hull slid open, creating a docking path. They think we're returning normally, Samira whispered. The scout is transmitting automated identification signals. How long before they realize something's wrong? Minutes at most, she estimated, as their vessel settled into a docking bay alongside dozens of identical craft. Once the real pilot attempts to interface with the scout systems remotely. They didn't wait to find out. The moment the scout completed its docking sequence, Marcus forced open the access panel and they slipped into the cavernous bay of Warship Alpha. The interior of the alien vessel defied human architectural conventions. Corridors curved in mathematically perfect spirals. Gravity seemed to shift subtly depending on which direction they moved. Most disorienting was the lighting, not from any visible source but seemingly embedded within the structure itself, pulsing in patterns that almost suggested consciousness. This way, Samira whispered, consulting her scanner. I'm detecting what might be their central information repository, massive energy patterns consistent with data storage. They moved cautiously through the ship, ducking into recesses whenever they detected movement. The alien crew members resembled Ambassador Krell, tall, unnervingly proportioned beings moving with fluid grace. Some wore the same reflective face shields, while others displayed features that seemed almost deliberately obscured, as though reality itself blurred around them. They're not all the same species, Samira realized, recording everything with her equipment. The initiative must comprise multiple alien civilizations. After navigating through what seemed like miles of spiraling corridors, they reached a chamber unlike any other. The walls displayed constantly shifting star maps, planetary systems appearing and disappearing in complex sequences. This is it, Samira breathed, approaching a pulsing central column, their database. While she worked to interface with the alien technology, Marcus secured the entry points, trying to ignore the growing certainty that they were running out of time. Anything useful? He asked after several tense minutes. More than useful, Samira replied, her voice tight with excitement and fear. Marcus, the Galactic Preservation Initiative isn't what it claims to be. These records, they show systematic resource extraction from worlds they've preserved. They're not environmental conservationists, they're galactic colonizers using conservation as a pretext. Can you prove it? Better, she said, connecting her device to the pulsing column. I can download their entire operation history, every world they've saved by subjugating or decimating its native population. A sudden wailing alarm shattered the moment. Lights throughout the chamber flashed in rhythmic patterns. They've detected us, Marcus said unnecessarily, drawing his weapon. How much longer? 30 seconds, Samira replied, her fingers flying over her equipment. I just need. The chamber door dissolved, revealing 3 alien figures. Unlike the others they'd seen, these were clearly security forces, armed with devices that hummed with lethal potential. Marcus didn't hesitate. He fired his experimental weapon, designed based on observations of the alien's own technology, directly at the lead figure. The blast struck with shocking effectiveness, sending the alien sprawling. The other 2 advanced, their weapons charging. Done, Samira exclaimed, disconnecting her device and securing it. Exit strategy, Marcus said grimly, backing toward the secondary door he'd identified earlier. I hope you were serious about understanding their transportation systems, because we need a way off this ship. Now. As alien reinforcements converged on their position, Samira led them through a dizzying series of corridors, following readings on her scanner. There's another docking bay 2 levels below us, if we can reach it. A blast of energy struck the wall beside them, leaving a smoking crater in the seemingly indestructible material. Marcus pushed Samira behind him, returning fire to slow their pursuers. No time for the conventional route, he decided, pointing to what appeared to be a maintenance shaft. Down. They squeezed into the narrow vertical passage, descending rapidly toward the lower level. Above them, alien voices communicated in harmonics that vibrated through the ship's structure. The docking bay, when they reached it, contained what appeared to be personal transport craft, smaller than the scout vessels, seemingly designed for individual use. Can you fly one of these too? Marcus asked, covering their position as more security forces converged. Samira approached the nearest craft, which responded to her presence by activating. Only one way to find out. As they boarded the small vessel, Marcus used the last of his specialized charges to seal the bay doors temporarily. The transport craft hummed to life under Samira's guidance, rising shakily from its docking position. The outer doors are sealed, she reported tensely. We can't. Marcus pointed to what looked like the craft's weapons system. Then we make our own door. The resulting explosion tore a hole in the warship's outer hull, decompressing the bay instantly. Their small craft was sucked into the vacuum of space, tumbling wildly before Samira managed to stabilize its systems. As they accelerated away from Warship Alpha, the massive vessel began to glow with energy patterns that suggested weapons activation. They're targeting us, Marcus observed calmly. Not for long, Samira replied, her hands dancing across the craft's interface. I'm programming a jump to Earth's atmosphere, hold on to something. The space around them seemed to fold, and suddenly they were plummeting through Earth's upper atmosphere, the alien craft heating rapidly as friction took its toll. Can you land this thing? Marcus asked, gripping his seat as the planet's surface rushed toward them. Samira's face was illuminated by the glow of re-entry. Define land. Miles below, in the command center, General Himura received the automated distress signal from Marcus's embedded transmitter. They made it back, she announced to the room, and according to this, they've brought us exactly what we need. As the stolen alien craft streaked across Earth's sky like a falling star, Olivia Winters was already preparing for the next phase, confronting Ambassador Krell with evidence that could change everything. The ultimatum's deadline was approaching rapidly, but for the first time since Warship Alpha appeared, humanity had hope, tenuous, dangerous hope, purchased with courage and now hurtling toward Earth at terminal velocity. The crash of the alien transport craft created a 3-acre crater in the Siberian wilderness. For several minutes after impact, the twisted metal, if it could even be called metal, continued to shift and reform as though trying to heal itself. Rescue teams approached cautiously, thermal imaging showing 2 human-sized heat signatures amid the wreckage. When they finally reached the craft's ruptured hull, they found Marcus Donovan already on his feet, bloodied but functional, cradling the unconscious form of Dr. Samira Hassan. Get her to medical, he ordered hoarsely, and secure this. He handed over her data device still miraculously intact. Earth's future depends on it. 12 hours later, in the underground command center, Olivia Winters stared at the holographic display of information extracted from the alien database. Though she had slept only 4 hours in the past 3 days, her mind remained razor-sharp, fueled by the desperate knowledge that humanity's deadline was now less than 10 hours away. It's all here, she told the assembled leadership council. The Galactic Preservation Initiative has preserved 17,000 worlds over the past 4 million years. In nearly every case, the result was the same resource extraction on a massive scale after the native population was either subjugated or dramatically reduced. They're pirates with a fancy mission statement, General Himura summarized grimly. Precisely, Winters agreed. They identify developing civilizations with valuable resources, classify them as threats based on their predictive models, then force them to accept conditions that leave them defenseless. The Secretary General leaned forward. Can we use this information against them, force them to leave? Unlikely, said a new voice. All heads turned to see Dr. Samira Hassan being wheeled into the room by medical staff against their obvious protests. Her right arm was in a cast and bruises darkened her face, but her eyes burned with determination. The initiative operates with the blessing of a coalition of advanced species. They believe they're doing the right thing, preventing the emergence of new competitors while securing resources. Then what options do we have? Colonel Jackin demanded. Their deadline arrives in hours. We have 3 advantages they don't know about, Winters replied. First, Dr. Hassan's data reveals that their threat assessment of Earth is actually borderline. We almost qualified for their supervised development program instead of intervention. Second, we now understand their command structure and protocols. And third, she glanced at a message that had just appeared on her tablet, we may have found a weakness in their technology. That weakness was currently being explored 30 miles away, where engineer Theo Ramirez had been studying fragments of the alien scout vessel captured during the initial interception. At 47, Ramirez had spent his career developing propulsion systems for the Global Space Alliance, only to find himself suddenly tasked with reverse engineering alien technology with a planetary deadline looming. The quantum field manipulator isn't just their propulsion system, he explained via secure video link, his gray-streaked beard and disheveled appearance testament to his sleepless dedication. It's integrated into all their systems, weapons, shields, communications, and it operates on a very specific frequency range. Can we disrupt it? General Himura asked directly. Ramirez hesitated. Theoretically, their technology is centuries beyond ours, but the underlying physics still applies, if we could generate a counter-resonance field at precisely the right frequency. Would it disable their ships? Colonel Jacken pressed. Not exactly, Ramirez replied. More like, introduce unpredictability into their systems. Think of it as static in their communications, hiccups in their weapons targeting. It wouldn't render them harmless, but it might level the playing field somewhat. General Himura turned to Olivia Winters. Work this into the strategy. We need every advantage we can get. The strategy, such as it was, had developed rapidly after Marcus and Samira's return. With proof of the initiative's true nature and a potential technological vulnerability, humanity's options had expanded slightly, but the threat remained existential. We need to buy time, Winters had insisted during planning. The moment their deadline passes, Ambassador Krell will expect our submission or initiate the neutralization option. We need to disrupt that binary choice. The plan they developed was audacious to the point of insanity. While a diplomatic team led by the Secretary-General would meet with Krell ostensibly to deliver Earth's decision, a secondary operation would target Warship Alpha with Ramirez's counter-resonance technology. Meanwhile, the data Dr. Hassan had stolen would be broadcast to every communication system on Earth, and more importantly, to the network of alien species connected to the initiative. They operate on strict protocols and bureaucracy, Winters had explained. If we can prove they've violated their own procedures in assessing Earth, it creates a procedural requirement for review. And if other species see how the initiative has manipulated similar situations before. As the designated meeting time approached, Captain Zara Okafor prepared to lead Earth's space-based defensive forces. At 38, the Nigerian-born commander had distinguished herself during the European resource conflicts, earning a reputation for tactical brilliance and unwavering calm under pressure. Now, as she stood on the bridge of the orbital defense platform Artemis, she faced the greatest challenge of her career. All units report ready status, her executive officer announced. Okafor studied the holographic display showing the positions of Earth's pitifully outmatched defense forces. A scattered array of orbital platforms, retrofitted civilian vessels, and experimental fighters, all positioned according to the strategy developed by Winters and her team. We're not trying to win a conventional battle, Okafor reminded her officers during the final briefing. We're creating a complex tactical situation that forces them to deviate from standard protocols. Every minute we keep them engaged is another minute for the diplomatic team to work. As Captain Okafor's forces moved into position, Dr. Viktor Novik made final adjustments to the communication array at the Arecibo Observatory. The Ukrainian xenolinguist had spent the past 48 hours analyzing the communication protocols extracted from the alien database. Their network architecture is surprisingly open, he explained to his team. They've never needed security against the species they subjugate. Once we penetrate their primary communication channels, the data should propagate throughout their entire coalition. At precisely 1,000 hours, the Secretary-General's delegation arrived at the designated meeting point, the same Saharan location where they had first encountered Ambassador Krell. The alien was already waiting, its reflective face shield offering no hint of emotion or intention. You have reached a decision? Krell asked without preamble. We have, the Secretary-General replied carefully. But before we announce it, we wish to submit a formal procedural appeal based on Section 47.3 of the initiative's evaluation protocols. The alien's posture shifted slightly, the first sign of surprise they had witnessed. You have accessed restricted initiative documentation. We have, confirmed Olivia Winters, stepping forward with a data tablet. And we've identified 17 procedural violations in your assessment of Earth, including failure to consider mitigating cultural factors, improper application of predictive modeling parameters, and most significantly, she paused meaningfully, failure to disclose resource extraction intentions. Krell's response was cut off by an urgent communication from Warship Alpha. Though the humans couldn't understand the harmonic language, the tension in the aliens' posture was unmistakable. Above Earth, Captain Akafer's forces had launched their carefully coordinated operation. Rather than directly attacking the alien vessel, they had deployed Ramirez's counter-resonance technology in a complex pattern around the warship, creating fluctuating disruption fields that forced the aliens to adapt constantly. "They're adjusting their shield configurations," reported Akafer's tactical officer, "exactly as predicted. Maintain the pattern," Akafer ordered calmly. "Don't give them a stable target." The true impact of their strategy became apparent when Dr. Novik's team successfully penetrated the initiative's communication network. The stolen data, including historical records of thousands of subjugated worlds and evidence of the initiative's resource extraction operations, began flowing through alien communication channels, reaching the coalition species that had authorized the initiative's operations. On the ground, Ambassador Krell's posture had changed dramatically. The alien now stood rigidly, its communication device emitting a continuous stream of harmonic signals. "Your species has violated initiative protocols," it finally said, the perfect English now tinged with harmonic distortions. "Interference with initiative operations is classified as hostile action. Are simply exercising our rights under your own regulatory framework," the Secretary-General countered smoothly. Section 92.7 explicitly permits species under assessment to submit contradicting evidence prior to final determination. The legal maneuvering, based entirely on the initiative's own Byzantine regulations, was buying precious time. Above them, Warship Alpha had begun deploying defensive measures against Akafer's forces, but the unpredictable nature of the counter-resonance fields was forcing them to proceed with unusual caution. "They're hesitating," Akafer reported to command. "Their response patterns don't match previous observations." In the command center, Marcus Donovan watched the unfolding situation with the measured assessment of a veteran operative. "They've never faced organized resistance that understood their playbook," he observed. "Their entire operation depends on overwhelming technological superiority and bureaucratic momentum." The pivotal moment came 3 hours into the standoff. Dr. Novik burst into the command center, his expression a mix of excitement and disbelief. "We're receiving communications from other species," he announced. "The data breach worked. Members of the coalition are questioning the initiative's actions toward Earth." General Himura turned to the main display, where Captain Akafer's forces remained engaged in their elaborate dance with Warship Alpha. "What's happening up there?" "They've stopped offensive operations," Akafer reported. "Their energy signatures are fluctuating in patterns we haven't seen before. I think they're arguing among themselves." The confirmation came moments later when Ambassador Krell's transport suddenly departed the Saharan meeting site, returning to Warship Alpha without any formal conclusion to the negotiations. For 6 agonizing hours, humanity waited. Defense forces remained on high alert. The counter-resonance technology continued its disruptive emissions. Dr. Novik's team monitored the alien communications network, translating fragments of what appeared to be a heated debate among coalition species. Then, without warning, a new transmission reached every communications device on Earth simultaneously. "Attention Earth leadership. The Galactic Preservation Initiative ACKNOWLEDGES receipt of your procedural appeal. Pending full investigation of submitted evidence, Earth's assessment status is temporarily reclassified to Category 5B, MONITORED Autonomous Development. Initiative REPRESENTATIVES will withdraw from Sol system within 24 hours. Future RE-evaluation will occur no earlier than 50 Earth years hence. Coalition Oversight Committee determination is final." The command center erupted in cautious celebration. General Himura raised a hand for silence. "Dr. Novik, verify this is legitimate." "It matches all authentication protocols in the database," he confirmed after analysis. "This appears to be an official communication from their governing body, not just from Warship Alpha." "What exactly does Category 5B mean?" Colonel Darkened asked. Dr. Hassan, still in her wheelchair, consulted her notes. "According to their classification system, it's essentially probationary status. We're allowed to develop independently but will be monitored from a distance. It's the best outcome we could have hoped for under the circumstances." "They'll be back in 50 years," Marcus reminded everyone soberly. Yes, Olivia Winters acknowledged. But now we know what we're facing. We have half a century to prepare, not just technologically, but diplomatically. The coalition isn't monolithic. We've identified potential allies among their member species who were troubled by the initiative's actions. Engineer Ramirez, who had joined them via video link, cleared his throat. And we have their technology to study. The counter-resonance field was just the beginning. With time, we can reverse engineer. Carefully, interrupted the Secretary General. We can't simply replace one existential threat with another. The development path we choose now will determine how we're judged when they return. As Warship Alpha gradually powered down its offensive systems and began preparations for departure, humanity faced perhaps its greatest challenge, yet unity of purpose beyond the immediate crisis. Captain Akafer's voice came through on the command channel. They're withdrawing, General, all scout vessels returning to the main ship. Energy signatures indicate jump preparations. Maintain vigilance until they're gone, Himura ordered, and prepare a full tactical analysis of everything we've learned. In the hours that followed, as the immediate danger receded, the weight of what had occurred began to settle on those who had faced the crisis directly. Earth had confronted an advanced alien civilization and against all odds secured a reprieve. Not through military might, but through intelligence, courage, and exploitation of the adversary's own rules. 48 hours after the initiative's withdrawal, the core team gathered in a secure conference room to discuss the path forward. Dr. Hassan, now able to walk with assistance, had brought preliminary analysis of the alien technology. Engineer Ramirez presented early findings on the counter-resonance field's applications beyond defense. Dr. Novik shared translations of communications from potentially sympathetic coalition species. We need to establish a dedicated agency, General Himura proposed. Something independent of existing power structures focused solely on preparing for their return. Not just preparing to fight, Olivia Winters added. Preparing to negotiate from a position of strength. The initiative's operations weren't sanctioned by all coalition members. We have potential allies out there. Marcus Donovan, who had remained characteristically quiet throughout much of the discussion, finally spoke. What happened here changes everything, not just about our future, but about our past. Everything we've built, everything we've fought over. It all looks different now. Captain Akafer nodded in agreement. We've spent our history divided by borders that look meaningless from orbit. Perhaps that's the real opportunity here, not just new technology, but a new perspective. As the meeting concluded, the team stepped outside the facility into the clear night air. Above them, stars shone with a clarity that seemed both familiar and newly mysterious. Somewhere among them, Warship Alpha was returning to report its unprecedented failure, while coalition species debated the evidence humanity had thrust into their awareness. 50 years, Dr. Hassan mused, gazing upward. What will we become in that time? The question hung in the air, unanswered but full of possibility. Earth had survived its first major galactic test, not through surrender or superior firepower, but through understanding, adaptation, and unity of purpose. The same qualities that might allow humanity to eventually take its place among the stars not as a subjugated species, but as equals. As the team dispersed to begin their respective roles in Earth's new interstellar strategy, Engineer Ramirez paused beside Olivia Winters. You know, he said quietly, the counter-resonance technology has interesting theoretical applications beyond defense. If we could refine it, stabilize the field effects. Faster than light travel, Winters finished the thought. I know, the question is whether we're ready for it. Well, Ramirez replied with a small smile, we have 50 years to find out. Above them, a shooting star traced a brilliant arc across the sky. Not an alien vessel this time, just ancient cosmic dust burning in Earth's protective atmosphere. A reminder that some challenges were as old as the planet itself, while others were newer than humanity's brief collective memory. The day Earth was targeted had passed. The days of preparation for survival, for advancement, for a place in a vastly more complex universe than anyone had imagined, had just begun. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.